Any Republican who insists that Hunter Biden should be investigated ever insist.
This is MSNBC's Lawrence O'Donnell, and he's calling out the clear Republican hypocrisy over the recent bombshell scoop involving Donald Trump's son-in-law.
Who insists that Hunter Biden should be investigated ever insist that Donald Trump's son-in-law and Donald Trump's daughter.
What do brain tumors, billionaire donors, and Lindsey Graham missing his spine have in common? They're all part of one of the messiest Senate race stories you'll ever hear. Dr. Annie Andrews is calling out the billion-dollar political machine, and she's got receipts. Why does this battle go beyond politics? Stick around to find out. Before we move on, I would like you to subscribe to the channel and like the video. Remember when Lindsey Graham called Donald Trump a kook, crazy, and unfit for office? Feels like it happened in a completely different universe, doesn't it? Back in 2016, Graham wasn't mincing words. He warned anyone who would listen that Trump as president would be a disaster, dragging the Republican Party and maybe the country into chaos.
That Donald Trump's son-in-law and Donald Trump's daughter should be investigated for taking $2 billion. Ever complain about Jared Kushner getting $2 billion in oil profit money from Saudi Arabia?
At the core of all this was Jared Kushner, the ex-president's son-in-law and senior advisor.
Unlike Jared Kushner, Hunter Biden didn't steer his father's foreign policies towards any country.
At the time, people saw Lindsey Graham as a principled Reagan-era conservative. A staunch foreign policy hawk, he championed a vision of America as strong, respected, and interventionist, rooted in old-school ideals like peace through strength. He was serious, articulate, and, well, kind of boring, but in a good way for a U.S. senator. The guy showed every sign of being a politician with consistency, if nothing else. Fast forward to today, and you have Lindsey Graham near tears on live TV begging the public to give Trump another chance. Wait, another chance? The same kook he once said would destroy society? Oh, and let's not forget his golf outings with Trump, where Lindsey looked more like a starstruck teenager meeting their Hollywood idol than a respected member of Congress. I mean, he went from calling Trump a danger to fawning over him like he was the second coming of Reagan himself. The shift was so dramatic, you have to wonder if maybe Graham was bitten by some loyalty zombie virus on the Mar-a-Lago golf course. Maybe Trump served him a Diet Coke laced with Make America Great Again potion. Whatever it was, this isn't just a political 180. It's a figure 8. But here's the thing. Graham's transformation isn't just about Trump personally. It's a symbol of something bigger. The internal war brewing inside the Republican Party for years now. Back in the good old days, or at least what some people remember as the good old days, Republicans like Graham were defined by their support for internationalism, free markets, and military intervention. These were the principles that fueled U.S. foreign policy for decades. But then Trump bulldozed onto the stage with his America First ideology, which basically said, forget the rest of the world. Let's build walls instead of bridges. Suddenly, it wasn't so fashionable to talk about grand interventionist foreign policy goals. It was all about isolationism, tariffs, and tweets. Lindsey Graham, Mr. Foreign Policy Hawk Extraordinaire, was like a fish out of water in this new world. And yet, instead of fighting for what he believed in, Graham folded faster than cheap lawn furniture at a barbecue. He didn't just adapt. He became one of Trump's loudest cheerleaders. Remember when he defended Trump's decision to pull U.S. troops out of Syria, even though that went against every hawkish instinct he'd preached for decades?
A story that you won't find on Fox News because it doesn't involve Hunter Biden.
Any Republican.
And let's clear some things up, by the way. Unlike Jared Kushner, Hunter Biden has never worked at any level in any presidential administration.
Should be investigated for taking $2 billion from Saudi Arabia. You will never hear a Republican who complains about how much we have to pay for gasoline.
Or when he praised Trump for meeting with Kim Jong-un, despite years of Graham calling North Korea one of the biggest threats to world peace. It's like he threw an ideological yard sale and sold everything for the price of a MAGA hat. But here's the kicker. This shift wasn't about policy, at least not entirely. It was about survival. Trump didn't just reshape the Republican Party, he became the Republican Party. And Lindsey Graham figured out pretty quickly that if he wanted to keep his seat and his influence, he'd need to fall in line. Cue the groveling, the awkward laughs at Trump's jokes, and the desperate attempts to cling to relevance. One minute, he's staring down cameras as if he's lost his soul, and the next minute, he's on the golf course calling Trump Fun Don. It's enough to give you whiplash. Meanwhile, this isn't just about Graham's personal downfall. It's about what his shift says about where politics stands today. The Republican Party isn't even a cohesive ideological group anymore. On one side, you still have the old-school hawks clutching their copies of Reagan's speeches like security blankets. On the other, you've got the MAGA crowd, rallying behind populist slogans and downing Kool-Aid. The fight isn't just theoretical either. It plays out in every primary election, every Senate race, and every awkward exchange on Sunday morning talk shows. And here's where it starts to get ugly. Graham's desperation to stay relevant at all costs eventually makes you ask, what's the real cost here? His flip-flopping isn't just embarrassing. It's part of a bigger story about how power and ambition shape and sometimes destroy principled leadership. When Graham defends Trump against criticism, even when Trump's decisions clash with Graham's lifelong beliefs, he's not just supporting a leader, he's supporting the erosion of ideological consistency in politics. Is it any wonder people are so cynical about Washington? You'd think public humiliation would make anybody stop and think, maybe this whole selling out thing isn't worth it. But clearly, Graham didn't get the memo. Instead, he's doubled down, cementing himself as Exhibit A of how shifting power dynamics can distort even the most seemingly polished politicians. And just when you think this internal GOP war is bad enough, wait until money gets involved. If Lindsey Graham's soul being squashed wasn't depressing enough, let's take a look at the billion-dollar stakes that take this ideological chaos from messy to downright dangerous. What does $2 billion buy you these days? For Jared Kushner, it seemed to buy, well, a whole lot of questions. Right after his little stint as a senior advisor in the White House, Kushner didn't jump into a quiet, low-profile life like most former government officials might. Oh no. He launched Affinity Partners, his very own private equity firm. And in what might be the fastest cash influx in history, Saudi Arabia's public investment fund, the one controlled by none other than Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, handed him a cool $2 billion. You heard that right? $2 billion. For a guy with pretty much zero experience running a private equity firm, that's a heck of a vote of confidence, huh? Here's the thing. This eyebrow-raising deal didn't just slip by unnoticed. Critics couldn't stop asking, why? Why would Saudi Arabia, a foreign government, entrust that kind of money to someone whose investment experience could generously be described as lacking? Kushner isn't exactly Warren Buffett. Sure, he handled real estate deals before, but running a global private equity fund? That's a different beast entirely. So, was this really about Jared's knack for sound financial bets? Or were the Saudis paying for something else, like an IOU that could come in handy later? If you've been following the highlight reel of US-Saudi relations during the Trump years, this deal starts to feel less like an investment and more like the world's worst-kept secret. Kushner, an unelected official with unprecedented access to power, spent years building a cozy relationship with the Saudi government. It was Kushner, after all, who reportedly worked closely with the Crown Prince on everything from arms deals to diplomatic back channels, brushing off growing concerns over Saudi Arabia's human rights record. Oh, and can we talk about the timing for a second? This $2 billion investment just happened to come through shortly after Kushner left the White House. It's like finishing a reality show and immediately cashing in on a brand deal. Except in this case, the brand deal involves a foreign autocracy and billions of dollars. Remember the murder of journalist Jamal Khashoggi in 2018? That horrific incident caused worldwide outrage. Saudi Arabia, and specifically Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, was widely accused of orchestrating it. And what was the response from the Trump White House? A shrug and a polite fee-waived parking ticket. Kushner remained close with MBS, maintaining what insiders called a personal bond, even as the world demanded accountability. The Crown Prince must have really appreciated having a high-level friend who didn't rock the diplomatic boat. And here we are now, with $2 billion landing neatly in Kushner's lap, making you wonder if that friendship involved more than just friendly texts. Let's not forget the constitutional shadow looming over all this. You know, the emoluments clause? That little part of the Constitution designed to block foreign governments from influencing US officials by basically sliding a stack of cash under the table? Yeah, the Founding Fathers definitely had concerns about this kind of thing. If ever there were a textbook breach, their words, not mine. It's this. The whole point was to prevent exactly this: foreign entities gaining power over American politics with a few billion-dollar investments. But apparently that textbook got shoved to the back of the library in recent years, collecting dust next to Trump's unread briefing memos. And Jared isn't an isolated case. His deal shines a very unflattering spotlight on a growing trend among Trump-era officials. Leaving government positions and diving straight into a pool of foreign cash isn't unique to Kushner. It's part of a larger epidemic of officials cashing in on their roles in ways that would make even career lobbyists blush. It's almost like the line between public service and personal profit has completely evaporated, leaving behind a swamp of, well, kleptocracy. And all of this sends a dangerous message. Public office is just the stepping stone to private enrichment. Ethics, accountability, those are words that look nice on a job application, but who cares about them when there's cold, hard cash on the table? Not everyone is blindly letting this slide, though. Enter Senator Chris Murphy, someone who's clearly had enough. He's one of the lawmakers actually trying to push back against this kind of sketchy behavior. Murphy has highlighted how deals like Kushner's threaten to reshape American democracy into something that's barely recognizable. If powerful figures can use their government influence to cash in with foreign regimes, what kind of precedent does that set? Murphy isn't just framing this as one bad billionaire cutting one shady deal. He's calling it what it is: a systemic issue that puts the very soul of democracy at risk. This brings us to a bigger point. Kushner's deal, for all its jaw-dropping numbers, isn't just about one man getting rich. It's about power. Power for foreign leaders to sway US politics. Power for billionaires to operate outside the bounds of accountability. And at the same time, it's a slap in the face to ordinary Americans who are already losing faith in a government that feels out of reach, out of touch, and, for all intents and purposes, out for sale. The bad news? Jared's $2 billion inflow is just one thread in a much bigger web of corruption. The worst news? It's the kind of web that ordinary Americans are often stuck in. What's next? Let's talk about how this culture of greed poisons politics far beyond Mar-a-Lago. Power and greed don't just live in the shadows. They've moved into penthouses with private elevators. Jared Kushner's $2 billion payday and Lindsey Graham's spine-melting loyalty showcase how unchecked ambition warps democracy. When foreign governments see US politics as an open market and politicians trade principles for survival, the idea of serving the public slips into a joke. Obama's talk of "we" feels like ancient history compared to this circus of self-interest. So, the next time a politician says they're fighting for you, ask, are they cashing in favors too? Because the cost of corruption isn't just money, it's trust.